Kierkegaard's Cure for the Modern Soul. All right, let's dive right into this explainer of our source material. Today, we're unpacking a quiet crisis that, honestly, so many of us are facing right now. We have more access to comfort, connection, and success than at literally any other point in human history, right? Yet, something feels deeply fundamentally off. Well, we're going to explore the profound insights of a 19th century thinker to figure out exactly why that is, and more importantly, how we can actually fix it.
So I want you to look at this question and ask yourself honestly, why is it that you can have the job, the money, the status, and the family, and still feel completely detached from your own existence? You know, you've checked all the boxes society handed you, you're doing everything quote-unquote right. So why do you find yourself staring at the ceiling wondering, what am I actually living for?
Part 1. The Sickness Unto Death Covering Modernity.
Okay, I know, the title sounds incredibly grim, right? A sickness unto death. But this isn't a literal physical illness that kills you. It's actually a failure to be your true self. It's when your physical body is walking around, going to meetings, drinking coffee, firing off emails. But your authentic inner self, it's flatlined. You are alive, sure, but you aren't truly living as you.
This really hits the nail on the head. As human beings, we're caught in this massive tug-of-war between two conflicting elements. On one side, we have the finite, your everyday reality, the daily commutes, the routine, paying the bills. But on the flip side, you have the infinite, the vast, endless potential you feel buzzing inside your mind. When your everyday reality completely loses balance with that boundless potential, a gap forms. And that gap, that painful, agonizing misalignment between the life you're living and the self you actually are, that is exactly what we call despair.
Part 2, Kierkegaard, the heretic philosopher.
To understand the cure, we've got to understand the rebel who diagnosed it. While the dominant philosophy of his time, championed by big thinkers like Hegel, tried to explain the entire universe, society, and history as this one massive moving system, our guy, Søren Kierkegaard, completely rebelled. He looked at all these grand sweeping theories and asked one terrifyingly simple question: how should you live? He didn't care about everyone or the crowd, he cared about the individual, you. Now, what's really fascinating here is how his revolutionary philosophy was forged in the fires of intense personal torment. Born in 1813 into a wealthy but deeply religious family, he inherited this incredibly heavy sense of guilt and dark destiny from his father. But his absolute defining moment came in 1841. He actually broke his engagement to a woman named Regine Olsen. And it wasn't because he stopped loving her. Actually, it was the exact opposite. He was tormented by whether he could balance a normal family life with his intense spiritual calling. So he turned his own heartbreak, anxiety, and guilt into a mirror for humanity's soul, eventually publishing his masterpiece, The Sickness Unto Death, in 1849.
Out of all that personal pain came a really vital concept, the single one. Kierkegaard realized that, hey, hiding in the crowd is easy. Adopting the opinions of your company, blending in with the masses on social media, or just doing what normal people do, that's safe. But eventually, you've got to face yourself as this isolated single individual. You can't just delegate your life choices to the crowd. You have to take personal responsibility for the whole shebang.
Part 3. Which despair are you? All right, let's break these down, because the first one is actually the most terrifying. It's the despair of routine, which means being entirely unaware of your despair. This is the person who wakes up, goes to work, comes home, watches TV, goes to sleep, and repeats it for literally 40 years. They think they're living a perfectly normal life, but underneath it all, their spirit has silently flatlined. They are completely oblivious to the fact that they've lost their true self. Let's move to the second type, and you can see all this built. This is the despair of self-hatred. It's the agonizing, conscious rejection of who you are. You look in the mirror, or maybe you look at your bank account, and you just reject your looks, your background, or your abilities. You get trapped in this vicious cycle of wanting to be literally anyone else, constantly fleeing from your own identity.
And then we have the final type. Now, this one might look like incredible strength on the outside, but it's a total illusion. This is the despair of utter self-reliance. It's that exhausting, stubborn refusal to admit your own limitations. You defiantly try to construct your perfect life entirely alone, rejecting any need for a higher power, for God, or even just for help. You want to be the sole author of your existence, but man, that only leads to a fragile, profoundly isolating perfectionism.
Part 4. 3 stages to regain the self. Okay, the good news. Recognizing these symptoms is exactly what pushes us toward the cure. According to our source material, we all have to walk a very specific path, climbing from shallow distractions up toward a profound, terrifying, but ultimately liberating responsibility. Let's break down each of these 3 steps.
Step 1 is the aesthetic existence. This is where a lot of us start. And frankly, sometimes it's where we get stuck. It's the endless pursuit of pleasure, romance, and constant stimulation. But think about it. If you only live for the weekend, the next swipe on a dating app, 3 hours of mindless doom scrolling, or the dopamine hit of an impulse purchase, the thrill inevitably fades. Novelty just doesn't last. And when the party ends, you are left with a crushing, hollow emptiness.
So when that aesthetic life fails us, we usually move on to step 2, the ethical. This is when you decide, okay, time to grow up. You embrace duty, you focus on your family, your job, and being a good, moral citizen. But here's where it gets super interesting. Even here, you're going to hit a wall. You will inevitably face the heavy weight of your own inescapable flaws and sins. You realize that no matter how hard you try to do the right thing, human effort alone just cannot make you perfect.
And that heavy realization leads to the ultimate breakthrough, the religious existence. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean joining a church and sitting in a pew. What it means is taking a leap of faith. It's that pivotal moment where you stop relying purely on human logic, you accept your absolute vulnerability, and you surrender the illusion of perfect control to find your true grounding before the infinite.
Part 5. Despair is the gateway to hope.
This right here is the radical plot twist that completely changes how we view our mental and spiritual struggles. Read those words carefully. It proves that your anxiety, that hollow feeling when you're just lying in bed at night staring at the ceiling, isn't a failure. It's actually the exact moment your soul's tapping you on the shoulder, begging you to finally pay attention. You aren't in despair because life is bad. You're in despair because you are looking away from who you truly are.
You see, because human beings have total freedom to choose who we become, the anxiety of that choice is completely unavoidable. Escaping yourself through social media, overworking, or fleeting pleasures, that's not the cure. That's the real danger. Pain of not knowing what to do with your absolute freedom, that very despair, is an awakening. It is the incredible, messy birth of your true identity. Without feeling that despair, you would literally never search for your authentic self.
As we wrap up this explainer of our source material, I want to leave you with one final empowering challenge. Now that you know this emptiness isn't a dead end, but actually a doorway, what are you going to do? Don't run from the emptiness. Don't hide in the crowd. Step directly into it, take the leap, and ask yourself, who will you choose to become?